all of you, first of all, for giving your precious time today for this webinar, which has been conducted by Cyber Radar University. We have Tom Huskerson, who has a vast knowledge over 20 years in the different universities, and still he is working as a teacher and graduating the level of security courses, cyber security courses. Can I have Mr. Tom, please, to give a brief introduction about himself?
I'd just like to introduce myself. My name, of course, is Tom Huskerson. I'm a cybersecurity educator.
I'm Roger. Thanks. So I have about, well, more than 40 years of experience. So going back a little bit about social engineering, the threat of social engineering. And, the threat of social engineering comes from three places, really. It preys on you as a human because you want to trust somebody else. Why would somebody send you a text? Why would somebody send you an email to take advantage of you? And then the second thing it takes advantage of is the fact that it plants malware on your machine. Tom talked about the various devices and such. So it plants malware on your machine. And why does it plant malware? Well, for two reasons. Because you have a 0 day, you have malware that your antivirus is not going to catch. It also preys on the fact that you probably have not patched, you haven't kept your system up to date. And so when you get this email with a 0 day in it, or with the latest vulnerability that has in fact been patched by, say, Microsoft, you haven't put that patch in yet. So you're vulnerable to that.
Pretty good morning, guys. It's kind of early morning here in Canada. It's 2 o'clock. And so pardon me if I am, like I said, Jojo Anyag. I basically based here in Toronto, Canada. And for the past 29 years, I've been a professor in different universities here in Canada, as well as in the United States, in Asia Pacific as well. I'm a certified ethical hacker, a certified information security auditor, a certified server administrator, and a chief information security officer. I run my own cyber consulting firm based here in Toronto as well, dealing with penetration testing, vulnerability management, as well as doing regulatory and statutory compliance. What I have here is a simplified internet diagram, right? And the goal here is to just show you, a simple networking, local area networking, if you will, right? So basically you would see the two parts here. You got the front end portion depicted here by the workstations. And these workstations normally, it could be a phone, it could be a tablet, right? It could be a desktop PC, or it could even be an IoT device. It could be a car connected to the internet kind of device, or an appliance, if you will, like the latest refrigerator that connects to the internet. So pretty much a simplified internet diagram is composed of the front end, mostly the workstation, and the back end, mostly the servers and the database, right? So this is sometimes called the client server setup. You've got the client here and you've got the server at the back side. So if you are going to look at this local area network, the network administrator's job is to make sure that the connection between the front end is working, okay, and connected 99.99% of the time to the back end. All right. And that the type of people who are scheduled to execute these are what you call network administrators. The second one are what we call the server administrators. And their main job is to make sure that these back-end servers, okay, holding basically all the applications, all of the domain controllers, the active directories, those that makes Facebook server works, those that makes Instagram servers work, those that makes Amazon services works. All of them are basically placed in this little block box called the server. And it's the job of the server administrator to make sure that they manage this and it's open and up 99.99% of the time, which equivocates to basically 5 minutes of downtime, including planned downtime every year. The third component of IT is the database portion. And this little containers here, or cylindrical containers, actually contains the data, the SQL server, if you will. And the database administrators are the ones that are responsible in managing the uptime that this particular containers have. They have to always be up for an application to actually work seamlessly. And the fourth component of the IT domain is, of course, the application side. Okay, so basically the web apps, the front end, the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript, if you will, right? Security covers all of the four IT domains. The cybersecurity professional's main responsibility is to make sure that, number one, he is able to patch whatever vulnerability is inherent in the network. He is able to patch whatever server vulnerabilities are there, as well as database vulnerabilities and application vulnerabilities, right? So it's no wonder that cybersecurity, later on, I will show you some sort of a salary rating. It's no wonder cybersecurity professionals are the highest paid IT professionals in the world because of this, because we kind of the umbrella, if you will, in making sure that all of these IT domains work seamlessly. So why is cybersecurity important in the first place, right? Cyber attacks, basically, number one, affects all people. Cyber attacks are now so common that recent reports show that hackers attack computers every 39 seconds. Not only a faster speed of broadband service, basically the more use of cloud computing. A lot of people right now uses Dropbox, OneDrive. They would rather have their email in the cloud. So that uh, kind of expands the threat attack surface, if you will. There's also lots of damage to the business and loss of jobs. Sorry for the typo there. So there's a lot of damage to the business and loss of job. And essentially what this means is that um, you think of the biggest company in the world, like Facebook, the credit rating system Equifax, basically even American Airlines, or even Microsoft. Their Azure platform was basically hacked about 6 months ago. And essentially, this also pose a lot of threats and problems to an everyday individual that uses that service, right? So another one that is very important to take note is that cybersecurity threats are it's imminent. It's kind of clear and present danger right now. I mean, how many times are you able to actually see people get hacked or their identity stolen? All right. So this is something that you have to also think about in making sure that you're aware about how to refrain this from happening to you. Cyber concerns may result in regulations and legislation. What is this supposed to mean? Companies or basically nation states, like in Europe, they've just passed a legislation called GDPR, right? And it's a legislation for companies who are doing business with European customers to make sure that they are GDPR compliant. If a company is found to be GDPR compliant, in other words, they're not putting in place policy to secure um, personally identifiable information of their customers, then they're going to have a lot of penalties. One example of that is Google. They were penalized big time, something to a tune of almost 25 million. Because some of their subsites are not GDPR compliant. So, regulations and legislations that are created will automatically make business become aware that they have to be compliant with this new regulation. and business will require cybersecurity professionals to make sure that their business is compliant with new state laws and regulations. And because of this, number 6 here, the career opportunity is just going to skyrocket. Basically, there's going to be a lot of employment requirements that promising career to go to cybersecurity. Absolutely. Number one, let's look at this table that was provided by Global Salary Knowledge, and this is from their 2020 survey. If you take a look at the top 5 highest paying certifications here, one thing that you will notice is that 4 out of the 5 highest paying certifications in the world are cybersecurity related certifications, right? All of them are 6 figures. And if we're talking about here in North America, all of them, with the exception of AWS, the CRISC, the CISM, the CISSP, and the CISA are all cybersecurity certification. And promising career, second reason aside from salary is that yes, it is a promising career because it is right now in demand. If I'll be doing this webinar probably about 5 years ago, the top 3 most sought after IT profession I would say would be programming, server admin, and network administration. But things has changed, at least, right? At least in the area that I'm working right now, uh, we have coined a new profession called emerging tech or emerging technology. And in the emerging technology market, the top 3 most sought after IT professions are, in order of preference, number 1 is cybersecurity. Number 2 is artificial intelligence slash machine learning. And third is data analytics. That being said, if you look at Glassdoor, if you look at Indeed, if you look at LinkedIn, there are more cybersecurity hiring, whether it be it in the technical services or compliance services, compared to any other IT profession out there. Number 3, it's a career that lasts, right? It's one of the most recession-proof job. And what I mean by that is that you will be the last to be let go if a company really needs to lay off, IT professionals. And that is a very comforting, information to be had. And number 4, it is a diverse workplace, interesting and always ever changing. So the question now is, okay, you had me at hello, Jojo, you had me at hello. So am I a fit to become a cybersecurity professional? Now, a lot of people always think that, hey, for me to go into this field, I need to have, a lot of background in terms of programming, in terms of server administration, in terms of database administration, in terms of configuring a router to make sure that the network backbone is always up and running. Well, let me just tell you statistics. 87%, okay, as surveyed here in Canada, as surveyed by the Labor Office, identified that cybersecurity professionals did not actually came from the cybersecurity um, program. So let's just take a step back here and try to think that, hey, let's pretend right now that I am a cybersecurity student. What are the top things I need to be aware of so that I can help people around me, starting with my family, to be more cyber aware security user? In terms of online privacy, a lot of us have social, social presence, so to speak. So some of you have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, right? Um, Still, some do a lot of online banking transaction. So in this particular diagram, and this is a snippet that I got from, hang on, if I can just pull the actual website from where I got that. There you go. It is from informationisbeautiful.net. And the beauty of this is that if you look at 2012, there's not a lot of cybersecurity incident. As you move to 2013, Yahoo there has almost, almost, 1 billion accounts. Their 1 billion accounts have been compromised. As you move up the ladder, 2015, 2016, you would see that the bubble gets bigger and bigger. 2018, I believe somewhere here is Amazon as well. They're not prone. They're not, kind of, um, they were not really spared from data breaches. So you've seen their Facebook. Um, According to this particular bubble here, Indian citizens record in terms in their Mongo database in their government website were actually exposed, and basically it exposed their education, their resume, their current salary, as well as other personal information that would really be devastating to be made public, right? So let me just go through this very quickly now. Number one, okay, some security checklists: don't ever log into any site other than legitimate site. Always check the URL for any misspelled links before you proceed further. It is very important that you check the URL before you hit that enter, right? I mean, I teach my students to actually create a fictional URL site, all right, that when you go into that unintentionally, you will all automatically be injected by a malware or a Trojan horse. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to create a very simple JavaScript to do that. So that's number one. Number two, do not use your real names. Always use your nickname, okay, when you are registering, especially with this social media accounts. Number three, do not use common verifications such as your date of birth or your mother's maiden name. All right. Having said that, too, you know very well that these are informations that are used by banking institutions. So please do not, if ever you have a friend or a classmate that asks you for those information randomly, you have to be aware, hey, why are you asking this personal information? Because these are normally what is being asked by banking institutions. Number four, use complex or unique passwords. All right. And this is very important, guys. Make sure that when Chrome or Safari or Edge asks you, do you want to remember this password so that you don't have to enter that next time? Make sure you uncheck that option, or you uncheck the keep me logged in option. I mean, I have shown students how to create a simple JavaScript that will infect the CSS given the time the student or the user is logged into a particular account, right? So if you are logged into a particular account for a period amount of time, and it's you're not actually doing any active transaction with that account, we can easily create a JavaScript that tells a hacker to start manipulating the information found on the URL. So remember that. Number five, keep changing your account password regularly. All right. Active Directory normally is defaulted to 90 days. Don't wait for the system administrator to flag you. You have to change it now. You know, try to be disciplined in changing it probably every 30 days if you can. Do not post sensitive personal information on the social networking site. I think this is quite self-explanatory. Set appropriate privacy and security defaults to make your profile private, especially in Facebook and in Instagram. Now, number eight is very important too. Read the site's privacy policy and terms of service carefully. Only accept friend requests from the people you know. I think this is quite self-explanatory. Be aware of the intentions of anyone you meet on social networking sites, especially if they are not familiar to you. All right. If someone is harassing you, delete them from your list, block them right away, or report them to the site administrator. Restrict access to personal videos on social networking sites to friends only, and disable comments to prevent cyberbullying. And this goes as well with YouTube posting or daily motion video posting. All right. Do not click suspicious links in order to prevent malicious attacks, because this is probably the default way Trojan horses, okay, and worm viruses gets into your system. And be careful while installing third-party applications. What about email security? All right. A lot of people have been hacked via their email. And what are the top five email security threats out there? One is through malicious email attachments, and this is easily, perpetrated with even an attachment that looks like very, kind of um, it's like a picture attachment, if you will, right? we can create a program that when you double click on that picture attachment, doesn't have to be an executable file or an application that will be installed, even if it's just a picture attachment or a .docx or a .xlsx, an Excel file or a MS Word file. We can create an actual macro that will run as JavaScript online and will download the worm file. So make sure that this email attachment is something that you really required and are expecting to receive. Otherwise, be very, very suspicious. Uh, Phishing. What Phishing is basically something that a lot of people are so familiar with. Just to define that, it is a cyber crime in which target people are contacted via email or text messaging or telephone messages by someone posing like a legitimate institution to basically get information from you. The moment you click on the link that is perpetrated in the phishing scam, basically a Trojan horse or a malware has already been inserted or installed or downloaded in your system, transparently. You address and how do you actually refrain this security threats, email security threats from happening? Number one, create and use strong passwords. That's very important. All right. Making sure that it's a combination of not just numbers and letters, but also special characters. If you are familiar with ASCII table, and you can take that as a takeaway item for you, you can basically, with a combination of the alt key and the number key, okay, you can create non-printing characters on your password so that nobody would be able to see what that particular character is, right? Number two, disable the keep me signed in and stay signed in function in all of this particular email redirection. Provide recovery email address for mail recovery. With Gmail, once it identifies a particular device for the first time that tries to open your Gmail account, it will send you an email saying, is this you? So make sure that in the event that that particular transaction is illegitimate and the hacker just change your password, make sure that you have an email recovery assigned to that Gmail so you can reset what was changed in terms of your password. Use HTTPS to enable email service provider. If you're going to use a particular email service, it could be Gmail, right? It could be Outlook.com. Make sure that it has an HTTPS on the URL part. So number five, in terms of addressing email security, is to make sure that you turn off preview features in email clients. I don't know if you're familiar with this with Gmail and even Microsoft Outlook. You can just hover in your email each row or particular particularly each email, and it kinds of provides you some sort of a preview pane. What happens there is that it tries to open the email and tries to run a macro, if you will. We can base it, and the macro is a public macro. One can actually insert a public macro on the setting of the Microsoft Outlook and even Gmail, so much so that that macro that will be run just to provide that preview can actually expose you to some unwanted behavior, and some of them could actually be a Trojan horse, right? So turn off preview features in email clients. Number six, avoid unwanted emails by using rules or filters. Scan email attachment for malware, right? This is very important. If you have an antivirus, if you download that, make sure that before you double click and open it, you try to right click and scan that. If you're using Windows 10, try to scan using anti-malware, that is the Windows Defender that is available as a default. Check for last account activity periodically. So in terms of mobile phone, all right, these are the different security threats that are prevalent in mobile phones. Eavesdropping, right? It's more of a man in the middle attack between two particular endpoints. Unauthorized access pertains to somebody is able to brute force a particular username or password or PIN code of your mobile phone. Unmanaged applications, you've downloaded an application from an unsecure site, right? And now that particular application is able to inject some malware into your device transparently. Um, or theft and loss, right? I mean, there is even a device in Amazon that can clone a particular phone, and by doing a rootkitting on the phone, they can actually bypass the actual OS layer that stores the password or the PIN code, if you will, for the phone. In other words, by going to the actual registry, they can reconstruct, the pictures, right, the text messages, or even your contact list. And it's freely available in Amazon for only $35, right? Um, and even Bluetooth. The Bluetooth is practically almost 35% of all mobile phone hack, according to EC Council. So if you have your Bluetooth always open, I would really suggest that you try to close that if you're not really using it. So how are you going to address those mobile phone attacks? Number one, turn off your Bluetooth. Number two, encrypt your phone. There's a lot of third-party application directly from the phone manufacturers that authenticates that this is a legit encryption application with no malware. Use that to your advantage. Set up a remote locate and wipe. This is very, very. This is now available practically in all phone brands. It started with Apple, and now, if it is lost, you can basically just remote wipe or remote locate your phone. Back up your data to the cloud, all right? But make sure that that cloud, which I will explain in the next slide, is also encrypted. Do not jailbreak or root your phone, because all of the security layer, almost half of them is going to be bypassed once you've root your phone, and there's no turning back, right? Update the operating system every now and then, okay? And download as much as possible registered and legit anti-malware on your phone and your device. Use public Wi-Fi with caution. The last portion that I would like to cover is basically cloud security, right? Cloud security is simply, there, a lot of students always comes to me and say, okay, basically, where is the cloud, Danny? Where is it? What is it really, right? It basically, cloud security is using some sort of a platform that is not on your premises, and you're storing all of your information, your data, sometimes the entire platform or infrastructure in that particular location. So if it is not on prem, it is in the cloud, right? And the top three companies that actually provide this service, make that four, would be uh, by size, would say Amazon, AWS, Microsoft's Azure Cloud, Google Cloud, and number four, Rackspace. Okay, this four basically provides what you call a software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and a platform as a service. And to a lesser extent, for those that back up their pictures, their files, their audio, right? And videos, you've got OneDrive, you've got what else? You've got Dropbox, right? You've got Google Drive. So the advent of cloud platform has ballooned over the past 5 years, and that made Jeff Bezos the richest man in the world, right? Because of his of well, not just Amazon, but the AWS in particular. 35% of his revenue basically comes from AWS. Now, having said that, uh, it is not always fine to be moving all of your precious data into the cloud, right? There's a big pitch right now, and there's a statistics that was provided by Forbes last January 2020, before the pandemic, that 5 years ago, 65% of all top 1,000 Fortune companies data center are on prem, right? But after 5 years, 65% of all data centers are now on the cloud. So what does that tells us? Now our information is all the more risky of getting hacked or breached, because right now it's not in our premises, it is being hosted in a remote location. So how do we address this particular potential vulnerability? Number one, back up your data. If you're using basically Dropbox, for instance, have another cloud backup on top of that Dropbox. Number two, update backups regularly. It is important that you update your backup not just monthly, but as much as possible weekly. And if for some of you who are familiar with the grandfather, father, son backup, that would really help a lot in terms of restoring your information in terms of a breach. Create a strong password when you are using this online drive services. Choose a multi-factor authentication more than just putting your username and password. There's a lot of third-party tool or vendor that are free that provides this particular service. Duo Mobile is one example of two-step authentication. Use that, especially in your mobile device. Encrypt them as much as possible. There's a lot of third-party vendors that provide free encryption methodology or technology rather. Number six, have a disciplined online behavior. And when I say disciplined online behavior, as much as possible, don't back up sensitive information or pictures in the cloud. All right. And number seven, avoid keeping sensitive. Okay, so basically that's the same as number six. Um, Having this kind of discipline or mindset will help ease your burden in terms of, hey, I'm using the cloud platform, how secure is that? Remember, cybersecurity is designed not to be a showstopper, but actually to make you more productive. If you're aware that whatever happens in your site social activity, online social activity, or cloud service activity, and you're aware, you're cybersecurity aware, all the more you'll be more productive because you will be able to do your job without any fear of getting hacked or getting breached. And it is in this regard that I would like to turn you over back to my friend Kriti to to tell you how can you transition from being a non-cybersecurity professional to a cybersecurity professional, and how can Cyber Radar University bridge that gap, so to speak, providing you the hard skill that you need in order to land that very lucrative, high paying job in the cybersecurity world.